He used two hands, and after that, just pull it back. I'm creeping up in black and running up on the attack. These busters never know where I be at, that's why they mad. I ain't never smoking glass or saying nigga in my raps. Fuck a bitch that whispered that she loved me off the bat.
That definitely ain't gonna win him a Grammy. Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a torta with some snack habits. Bye, bye. Now that might. Let's go. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directing the direction of the dope content that the gun think stays kicking. And I appreciate all the support, man. I'm very humbled by it. So Neil Dazad basically is saying nowadays there could only be one black Sureño West, and that's that, right? Look, Tommy Gunz gets a lot of people talking shit about him. He gets a lot of hate. He gets a lot of envy, right? But I can honestly tell you most of the things that brother Tommy Gunz does, right? He does it to himself. Tommy Cameras definitely does it to himself. He likes the image. He likes the gangbanging, man. He's young. He's in his prime like Canelo, right? He likes them uppercuts. He likes every time he has any interaction with enemies, especially people from up north, man, it's like a notch on his belt. Even if he goes backwards, even if he's falling, even if he's filming himself wearing Crocs, even if he's telling security guards on people, whatever it is that he's doing in his eyes, even if he's chewing on condoms, in his eyes, he can do no wrong, right? But in an OG Southsider like Neil Dazad's eyes, that vato is making the black Southsiders look bad, ese. Let me explain to you my perspective on the situation. So for those of you that don't know who Neil Dazad is, Neil Dazad's been around for a while. He's certified in and out of prison, meaning he did his time righteously. He did parole general population, GP. I'm going to give him that, man. I'm not going to disrespect that man and say he's a hood hopper or he used to be a sangre or he was a crip or all these different bullshit stories that people throw around, because the truth is this, man. The truth is that man has never swayed in his story about his affiliation. That man has always been surge to the fullest. He's always represented the Southsiders from what I've seen and what I know. And he has said in many and plenty of interviews that if he was not a Southsider, he would have most likely been a sangre, a blood, because he has a lot of affiliation with them, grew up around them, his family. He has a lot of bloods in his family, and he's a brother, man. He's black. So, of course, you know, the majority of his family are going to be either Crips or Bloods, especially growing up in the Valle or the LA area, man. I get it, right? That man has never once swayed in his story. So I respect Neil Dazad. I might not like what he says all the time. You know, he's very disrespectful to the North. He has his own reasoning. He's never really came out and said why he hates Norteños or why he does just has a vendetta against them. But to each their own, man. I got homeboys that feel the same exact way towards the South Side, man. And, you know, I've sat down and I've picked their brains and I've asked them, why do you feel this way about people you've never met? And it's just instilled within them. It's in their hard drive, homes. They downloaded it and that they can't erase their CD-ROM. That's just how they feel. So you can never question a man's feelings. You can never question a man why he does what he does, why he ticks the way he talks. It just is him. It's within him. Look, I grew up with a lot of propaganda and a lot of OG homies feeding me a certain thing. And one thing they used to feed me is that Southsiders were our direct opposition. They hate us. They have belittled us. They have cheated us. I mean, anything you can think of in the negative, that's what I was fed. But being my own man and having the type of mentality that I want to see it to believe it, I actually, once doing time around them, once being where I was in a living situation around Sureños or Southsiders, I realized a lot of the things that I was being told, a lot of the reasons for my hatred, thinking I was being oppressed by these people. How the fuck am I being oppressed by them or being held down when they're not literally in the same area I'm in, right? So I used my own mind to come up with a decision and to make my own situation what it was, right? And I said, you know what? I don't hate the Southsiders. I understand they're the opposition, so it's business, nothing personal. But personally, I don't care one way or the other, man. They're eating tortillas like me, and I'm cool with it. Now, Neil Dazad has his own reasoning for hating Northerners, and that's cool. And most of the time he's on the internet, he is disrespecting Norteños. He is questioning why they are allowed to go to Los Angeles. He is disrespecting now lately Thumps. He has this vendetta with Thumps where he's actually wishing death upon people and making predictions saying that BFD is not going to last and he's going to get took out. And look, hey, wishful thinking, right? That Vato has basically a hatred towards a man that he never met and a real life hatred because that man pulled up to No Jumper and did an interview with Adam 16. Hey, I didn't like it either, Neil Dazad. But at the end of the day, I don't think the reasons for what I feel is the same as what you feel, bro. I think yours is more centered right here in the heart and it's deeper. It's just deeper, right? But Neil Dazad took to the internet and he had something else to say about Tommy Gunz, a fellow Black Southsider. Now, before I get into all that, let me explain to you about doing time with Black Southsiders. I always felt Black Southsiders did the most, right? I always felt because they were brothers and traditionally, Southerners are a Mexican group or gang, right? And so anyone outside of that race, especially Blacks that have grown up in the area with Southerners, that have broke bread with them, ate tacos, tortillas, and all that, and decided that they were going to be rocking with the South Side, from my experience, they've always had to go harder in the paint. And not because they were told to, not because they were put on frontline status or they were made to do so, but because 99% of Blacks that are Southsiders chose to. It's like a proving ground. They felt that they had to go harder in the paint, even against their own ethnicity, even against other Blacks, right? Because if they did so, then it was more like a badge of honor to say, see, I'm for real, homie. I'm really with you, Vatos. This is where I rock. This is where I stand. Now, I never seen a Mexican Southsider say, hey, to a Black Southsider, you have to do this or else you can't be kicking it with us. I never seen that. But again, I wasn't there in their juntas. I don't know what was being spoke on or said. I'm just saying from my perspective, I never seen that. Neil Dazad has voiced that many a time, saying he didn't feel it necessary or was he treated different, that he had to put in more work than the average Southsider, than the regular Mexican Southerner, right? Now, I will say this. Being that the Southsiders incarcerated traditionally have a lot of beef with brothers, man, with Blacks. It might not be like that on the streets in hoods and barrios, but yes, behind those walls, man, you hear a lot about Southsiders and Blacks getting off, riots, melees, issues all the time. Why is it that way? If you ask the Blacks, they're going to say because the Southerners hate brothers, man. And if you ask the brothers, they're going to say it's just growing up around them, man. That's how it's always been. I'm not going to pick sides and say who hates who and who is racist towards who and all that, because I've seen it happen on both sides. I've seen Southerners treat Blacks a certain way just because they were Black, and I've seen Blacks treat Southsiders a certain way just because they were Southern Mexicans. That's facts. That's truth. There's even videos floating around, on the internet that I ran into just yesterday of a brother, man, saying that Southsiders have always hated Blacks, and them saying the N-word was basically unconstitutional, and that the only Mexicans that should be allowed to say the N-word were Northern Mexicans because they rock with the Blacks, they mess with the Blacks, they grew up with the Blacks. Well, I'm here to tell you he's wrong. Southsiders also grew up with the Blacks. They're also on the streets making music with the Blacks and rocking with them. So this ain't a black and brown issue. This is a person's own perspective issue, and basically they're making it a racial issue. That's how I feel. And it goes both ways, right? But you would think a Black Southerner, being that all his people on the yard are feeling some type of way, brothers is going to be looking at him like, damn, bro, why are you going against someone your own pigmentation? Why are you going against your own culture? Why are you going against someone who looks just like you? Well, the question you need to ask yourself is, why are you going against someone who looks like you over a red or blue bandana? Why are North and South Mexicans going against someone that looks just like them when they grew up eating the same food and looking the same way when they wake up with lagañas in their eyes? Look, that argument is never going to pan out. Everybody goes against usually the people that look just like them. There's more killings and more violence between our own ethnicity and our own cars and our own people than anything. So that cannot be an excuse. You cannot hate on a Black Southsider if you're a brother, man, because he rocks with the Sur gang. You can't do that. Whereas you cannot hate on a Mexican that rocks with a black gang because you feel like, hey, homie, you should be one of us. No, they are one of them because they have chosen it. That's the way they grew up. That's their geography. That's the area that they chose to represent. And you got to respect it. Now, you don't have to, but you should, because that's reasonable. Seems like Neil Dazad, being a black Southerner, it seems like he has some type of envy against any other black Southerner. And I've seen it before. I've seen it play out, man. I was locked up with a dude from Shadow from Watts Audio Great. And he actually, due to peer pressure and due to just who he wanted to associate with, actually went away from being a Southsider. And I remember he transitioned to basically being a Crip. And I know that in Watts Audio Great, man, the Crips and the Watts Audio, which Watts Audio has been around way before anything else, they were, I won't say clicked up, locked up in the youth authority, but they were cool with each other. They knew each other personally. And so for this guy to get the peer pressure and to figure out, hey, you know what, I just want to do the black thing, I'm going to do the Crip thing, and to push off, the Southsiders didn't really trip. They were like, whatever, do whatever you got to do. But I remember there was another Southsider that came in, man, and he was from Los Angeles. And he was real heavy. He was actually a Hoover. Okay, he was a Hoover, but every time he tagged up, he always put Hoover 18. I'll never forget, man. And I remember questioning him one time, hey, bro, why do you always put Hoover 18? And he told me about an association at that time where Hoovers and 18th Streets were real close. They were real cool with each other. Now, I don't know if that still stands today, but there was actually a clica or a neighborhood that was Hoover 18, right? And he told me about all that, and I was like, wow, that's some new shit. That's some hybrid shit. That's some Tesla shit, right? But I understood that when 18th Streeters came in, they respected that guy. He was a pretty big brother, right? And they showed him love. Well, he ends up getting into it in the building with Shadow from Watts Audio Great, right? Now, Shadow had the WV Great, you know, the WVG-13 on his arm and everything, but he was claiming Crip at the time. He wasn't told to cover up his tattoo, nothing like that. We were young. It was YA shit. And no one was really tripping off that. But I remember he gets in a fight with the, I think the dude was from Hoover Locals, right? That's what they called it. So he ends up fighting with this dude or whatever. And it was more so the dude from Hoover was more fight. Even though he was Hoover, he like was hanging around with the 18th Streeters a lot, hanging around with the Southsiders, right? And I don't know if he was told to get off with Shadow or what their situation was, but they end up fighting. And I could see that they were like, at that time, Shadow kind of like got brought back into the fold where he was like, fuck that, homie. I'm going to be the only black Southsider here. I was like, are you Crip? Are you Southsider? Should I battery pack you? Like, I don't know what to do here. But I was watching from a distance, and I could see that there was a lot of envy, a lot of animosity between these black Southsiders because there could only be just one, right? It didn't seem like they wanted to get along. Like they had a hatred for each other because it was like, no, I'm the only black Southerner. No, I'm the only black Southerner. I said, I thought you were from Hoover, and I thought you were from Grape. What the fuck is going on here? I guess they were all discombobulated, but I'm saying that to say this. I've seen it before. It seems like Zod wants to be the only black Southsider with a voice and known because he has a lot of disrespectful shit to say about Tommy Gunz. Now, we know Tommy Gunz is an upstater. Okay, Tommy Gunz is from the Central Valley, the lower region of the Central Valley, more southern than northern, right? We know he's from Tulare County, from a little town called Pixie. He's a Pixlonero. A population of 3,000 people, man, with a gas station, a whole bunch of fruta, and Tommy Gunz, right? Now, not to disregard or disrespect, you know, his namesake and what he's doing, there's a lot of people that utilize the reasoning and the situation of him coming from a small town to basically say he's a poop butt. I don't think he's a poop butt. I think he's a young kid that can't really fight that good, man, that's trying to make a name for himself and is going to get himself caught up in a bad situation over doing so. That's what I think, right? I think he's not cut out for gangbanging. I don't think he's really cut for that. Not everyone is. I'm not. Shit. I think he's not cut out to be a good rapper either. I think he's cut out just to be a regular volatile man that has that look that people can say, hey, man, you know what I'm saying? Model search. Go be a model or something. Go model clothing like he's been doing. Promote clothing because the gangbanging ain't really your forte. But that's what he wants to be. And you can be anything you want to be, especially on the internet and now so the streets. And so over the situation that happened with the Norteño in the mall, and then the situation that happened with the security guard where it's pretty much concrete now, you can see Tommy Gunz pointing fingers and basically telling the security guard on a civilian, you know, Neil Dazad had a lot to say. And Neil Dazad, I could understand his situation being a black Southsider or a Southsider period. Let's take the black away, but just being a Southsider period, he feels like this Vato is corny and he's disrespectful, and that Tommy Gunz is not cut for this shit. He's not cut from the same cloth. You know, I understand what Neil Dazad was saying. Basically, like, if you're willing to gangbang and get off, homie, you go to the fullest. You don't never ask any police officers, security guards, anyone for no help. You know, you do what you do. You do what you do, and then you bounce, right? I think him asking security guards for help, and there's a lot of people that are going to defend Tommy, and they're saying Tommy didn't want to get caught up. He didn't want to crash out. That dude had his kids. Whatever. If you want to defend Tommy Gunz, cool. The fact is, when you're a gang member, homie, you do not fraternize with the K9. You do not go to the cops and ask them for assistance or help. You just fucking bounce, right? Now, Neil Dazad did say some crazy shit about, hey, you should have beat up that Northerner, socked that Vato up, even socked that Northerner's hyena, all that. Come on, stop it, Mr. Too Hard for the radio, right? Enough is enough, bro. Now you're promoting motherfuckers to beat women up. Don't say that. And for those of you that haven't seen it, man, it's all on the internet. Neil Dazad went in on Tommy Gunz, basically calling him a poop butt and saying that he doesn't have what it takes to represent the South Side. Now, is Neil Dazad in any position to question Tommy Gunz? They don't even know each other. Okay, and from my perspective, it's just an OG homie, basically someone who's older than Tommy, who feels it necessary to voice his opinion. And he's not wrong, and he's not right, and he's not right, and he's not wrong. Look, he's right in saying that if you're going to be a gang member and you're going to represent something like the Sud, one of the most vicious, well-respected, and violent groups, you know, you got to be real in what you do. You can't pick and choose your battles. You got to be on all the time, because that's what you're expected of you, right? Then at the same time, to sit there and promote hitting women, and just because dudes are North End, you're like, man, your hatred is overcoming your fucking reality and basically your morals, right? Now, as far as him saying that Tommy Gunz, basically saying Tommy Gunz snitched, Tommy Gunz told, right? Without saying so. I looked at it as a situation. Yeah, he's trying to come from a veterano's perspective. And you know, it's relevant right now, something to talk about. He's a content creator, so he's going to talk about the situation with Tommy. He was probably asked about it. But at the same time, man, I could see literally behind the scenes that he feels some type of way because it's a black Southsider. And it seems like brothers, man, that are Southsiders feel like all black Southsiders, man, are a product of them. You know, it's like, hey, bro, don't make us look bad. They're like a fraternity. They're a HBCU within the Sureño community, right? They are their own people. So, hey, you could, answer this or don't answer this in the comments, but I've seen Rich Rabbit. I've seen all these different black Southsiders, right? None of them get along. You notice that? Tommy Gunz, none of them get along. I tell you, there could only be one. There could only be one, man. I've seen it with my own eyes. So that's kind of the situation. You know, Neil Dazad, I understand him trying to get at the little homie Sud gang, basically, and telling him, you know, hey, Holmes, if you're going to do something, you got to do it to the fullest. But at the end of the day, throwing jabs at the same time because he feels disrespected. But come on now, man. Whatever your hatred is towards the North, or whatever your hatred is towards Thumps or BFD and all that, you know, keep that to yourself. Don't expect Tommy Gunz to go out there and fight them dudes, because he's going to get folded, right? But at the end of the day, I get where Neil Dazad is coming from. You know, he was basically checking Tommy Gunz. So the question I asked is this. Do you guys honestly believe Tommy Gunz is built from that same material Neil Dazad is in gangbanging? You know, Neil Dazad has every right to voice his opinion. He's a 40-something-year-old man. I'm sure he's not out there actively gangbanging. I don't think he even promotes it like that. Or does he? I mean, he was just promoting a woman getting slapped, right? So I don't know if that's his get down. But when you're giving klecha and you're giving education or the game to a youngster, you know, you usually pull him to the side and get out, you know, and get out to somebody that could reach him and say, hey, bro, let me get at you. Whoop-de-whoop, wop-de-wop, and do that. You don't put it on the internet in a disrespectful tone and basically say one of your fellow Southsiders, homie, ain't like that. Because what that does is that's divisive, that's division, and that creates animosity within your group. Again, man, can I take it to the black Southsider thing? Probably so. Like I said, none of them get along on the internet. Most definitely. In prison's a different story. But on the streets, man, it seems like the streets are vastly different from incarceration, right? Motherfuckers want to claim the fame. They want to claim the same group. They want to go in there and participate with Northerners and Southerners and do all this, and then they want to get on the streets and just disrespect and fucking hate them. I don't get it. You know, I don't get it. You are what you are. Hey, What do they say? Never switch up your style, Holmes. If you're going to be a gangster in there, be a gangster out here. If you're going to be cool with Vatos in there, be cool with them out here. I don't get the situational perspective of things. Anyways, man, just a video I wanted to put out. I seen Neil Dazad go in on Tommy Gunz, and I thought that was that could have not happened, right? We could have went without that. You know, Tommy Gunz is a youngster, man. You want to bring him up. You don't want to kick him when he's down. You know, is he a great rapper? No. Is he the hardest gangster I ever met or ever seen in my life? No. But that doesn't mean he's a punk, or that doesn't mean he's a sucker, man. Not at all. Anyways, Neil Dazad always has a lot to say, and he had a lot to say about him. Make sure that you guys go to the video and watch it. It's all over the internet. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive, struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in, and that's the betterment of all people. You're asking yourself, why are you even speaking on this? Because it's a situation where I'm like, damn, man, can't Vatos all get along? And I know the answer already. It's never going to happen, man. This video is sponsored by Vario Liquors in Turlock, California. If you're ever in the area, go pull up to the Vario and get you something cold to drink. Also by Sticks and Stones Yard Service, man. If you're in the Tucson, Arizona area, make sure you Google Sticks and Stones Yard Service. Hey, he'll lay out a good plan and he'll take care of you. This is the gun. Bang, bang. Don't make a video, Neil Dazad. I don't want no problems. But damn, homie, slapping Norteño's girl? Fuck, what'd they do to you, eh? What the fuck did they do to you?